has returned on Thursday morning. Good morning, Jonathan. It's the last day of October. We're here. It's Halloween.
Yeah, who cares?
How's your morning?
Not too bad. I heard that you had one of those epic moments with a train.
Oh, it's classic. I was on 27th Street on the east side of town and going north, take kind of the bypass around. Naturally got hit by a train, or got stopped by a train. Gotta catch that language there.
Yeah. And
it's just one of those little inconvenient things where it's like, if you know you're at the start of the train, you can like drive around. It's fine. Right. You know that like 5 minutes probably ain't going to matter. Yep. But if it's like mid train or more and you don't know, you got
worst time.
Exactly. So I just sat through it.
He sat through the train.
It killed me like an extra 3-4 minutes. It was crazy. It was a good time.
Yeah. Well, good for you. Yeah. Good for you. There's some epic stuff that's been going on.
Without a doubt. It's been a eventful last like 36 hours.
Yeah. I have a rant that I want to go on.
Let's hear it.
Can I go on a rant this morning?
Please go on a rant, Jonathan. I would love for you to get up on the soapbox and go to town this morning.
It might only be because it's morning. That could be the reason why this irritates me. But it happened yesterday and it happened today.
2 times in 2 days.
And there's a need for a stop sign by the new McDonald's on North Hill. And this is why it bothers me. Because there's a 3-way stop. Not a stop. 3-way intersection with no stop sign right now.
Sure.
And for the last however long, Sanford Clinic's been up there, right?
Yep. And
then for now, almost, it's under a year, but getting close to a year, Valvoline's been up there.
Sure. All summer long.
Mm-hmm. And now McDonald's is there. And now McDonald's drives traffic.
Of course.
There's going to be a lot of traffic once McDonald's
especially with the high school up there, too.
Yeah. And morning rushes, you have a bunch of residential. I think that they probably are going to sell a ton during breakfast time.
Oh, without a doubt.
Lunch will be the high school. And then even after work, you're going to catch people are going to be stopping by on the way to work.
For sure.
Or on the way from work. There's no stop sign at this 3-way stop sign, at this 3-way intersection. There's no stop sign.
Why not? Is there supposed to be one?
Well, I feel like there should be one. I've gotten almost into it. It's not that close to an accident, but like
closer
there's
than
a car
that's
stopping, that's not stopping, that should be stopping in my opinion, and then it happened at the same place twice. And I'm sure traffic studies need to be done. I'm sure all this stuff needs to happen, but if this was a private individual, a private business, the city of Minot would be all over them with their inspections, with everything else, making sure they cannot open, making sure they cannot proceed to the next step.
Got to be up to code.
But they got their process that they're going to have to follow in order before there's going to be. And I didn't reach out to the city before I went on this rant. I didn't do anything like that. This is
just from the gut. It's all based off feel.
This is all based off not feel, real life experience of almost getting in an accident twice.
Yep. Yeah.
And I'm not the only one.
In the last 24 hours too.
Yeah. I'm not the only one that has had that happen to them. I'm confident of. But the problem to me is not anything to do with McDonald's. It's not anything to do with Valvoline. It's not anything to do with the Sanford Clinic building. It's to do with the fact that the city of Minot, in a situation like this, gets to go and follow their process, but while the citizens suffer.
Yeah.
And the flip side of their process is that they'll shut down the projects for the city of Minot if they feel like something isn't the way that they want it.
Without a doubt. If the city isn't, or if the business isn't doing exactly, which I mean, of course, you have to follow code. There's code, but there's a difference too.
There's code, but there's also human. It does not all rely on code. There's human implementation, and you can get different answers from one person to the next person when it comes to building projects in the city of Minot.
For sure, without a doubt. You can, yeah, and there is that level of ambiguity in it all. There is levels for interpretation, and
it's wrong. And while the city of Minot does a lot of things great, and I typically don't go on rants against the city of Minot, in this area, do better. Just be consistent.
Or put a stop sign up.
Put a stop sign up. But I'm sure it's happened in other places that I don't know of. I'm sure other people could comment about it taking however long before a stop sign and messing with their quality of life.
I wonder if there's a reason for it. If they didn't think there'd be enough traffic there.
I'm sure there is a reason for it.
They just didn't think about putting one in.
When I think the reason is because I think that they don't consider. So the place where the people come out of the clinic, it's technically a 4-way stop, but the people come out of the clinic, they know that they have to stop because you're leaving a parking lot and you're going onto a street. Yeah. The street then goes and it curves right there. But the weird part about it is it curves, okay, but it also goes straight where you can go into the no man's land because there's this road that goes, and the McDonald's is off to the left of that road. Yeah. If going west, the McDonald's is off to the left or south of the road, and Valvoline's off to the north. I think it might be technically Valvoline's area. And so I think they're like, well, that's private business, so we don't need to mess with it. I don't care. I don't care whose it is. It does not feel at all like you're going into the parking lot. Nobody stops at that sign or at that place
area
at that
intersection.
Yeah, because it does not feel like it is a place where you should stop, because you're not going out of a parking lot. So for McDonald's, you pull out of the parking lot
onto that
road, and then you're like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, so you just think you just go, but lo and behold.
So that's the only thing that I can come up with, that maybe they feel like they don't need a stop sign because of that. That's the only reason.
So maybe one of those things you can't see ahead of time, but with a little better foresight, or at least in hindsight, it's one of those things that...
Seems like they see a lot of things ahead of time in other places, so it seems like they could do better there.
They sure try.
So, nonetheless, that's my morning rant, my Thursday morning rant.
I love it. Happy Thursday.
That's all I got. Yeah. Hey, it's a great day. I ain't upset.
Do you want to...
I didn't get stopped by a train.
Yeah, that's fair. I just had to sit for a minute. It was fine. Just listen to a podcast. It was classic.
Yeah, I mean, we got some of the best ones out there.
You're
so
darn right.
Glad you listened to one.
I was catching up on Shelley Wepler's interview.
There you go.
To finish it.
So what do you think is going to happen with the Ward County Commission race?
We should do some polling to find out.
He loves polls. Honestly,
I don't know. Honestly,
we talked about doing polls, and we talked about doing early polls, and we're like, no, there's no way it'd be productive because there's not going to be that many people doing early voting, and then it's lines for hours.
Yeah, it's all across the country too.
All across the country,
like it's a nationwide thing. People are getting out to vote early this year. It's fantastic. I love it. I love to see. I'm going to go vote today. Have you voted yet?
I have not voted yet.
Fair.
I hope next week when you ask me that, I say yes. I want to vote.
You can't wait till election day.
I cannot wait till election day. That's gonna be brutal
if I do that. I can guarantee it.
Goal is to get there today or tomorrow. Actually, I might have time today because some things changed, so I might have time today.
There you go.
There we go. But honestly, Ward County Commission race is gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be tight. I have no idea who's gonna win. I see
Randa Schuler, Jedediah Rader, Jim Rostad, Shelley Wepler, there we go, Ron Merritt. Yep. Could not think of his name.
Five candidates.
Yep, 5 candidates. We're 6, down to 5. And it's going to be interesting. We've done interviews with 4 of the 5. We did reach out to all 5 of them.
There's 3 spots up for grabs.
3 spots up for grabs. 2
of the people running are technically incumbents.
Technically. Yeah, and the reason why you say technically is because Shelley Wepler was on the June ballot, and Jim Rostad was not on the June ballot and actually had to get signatures and be a write-in candidate.
Yeah, he was originally not going to run for re-election, but then when there was not enough candidates on the initial primary ballot, that's when he offered his name up to be on as a write-in candidate, and now he is eligible for the fall ballot to run for re-election.
When you say offered his name up, the deal is anybody could have been a write-in candidate.
Of course, yeah.
You could have been a write-in candidate.
You could have as well. Next year.
Well, I was talking to our viewer. I have no interest. I have no interest.
Anyone out there could have been Ward County Commissioner on a write-in ballot this year.
I have no interest in being on the Ward County Commission, even if they do pay well.
It's thrilling, isn't it?
It's so interesting that they don't have an administrator.
Exactly.
Do they need one?
It's so interesting. It's not even on YouTube.
All right. That's fair. What he's saying is that meetings are not on YouTube. Their meetings are so interesting, they're not even on YouTube.
Exactly. They just know we're all going to show up, right?
It's on Vimeo. You have to scour the internet.
Through like a PDF link to find the link.
It's ridiculous. We have it saved.
You can get it. Yeah, we found it. If you need it and you want to reach out, we will send you the link.
But I had a good question, and you went to YouTube.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What was your question? Repeat it. I apologize.
Yeah. I'm struggling to find it, man.
We're past it now.
I'm struggling to find it. We're going to have to find that afterwards.
Yeah, we're going to have to look back at it. I cut you off. It's my bad, Jonathan. But Ward County Commissioner race coming up on Tuesday, of course. Based on signage you see around town, do you have any predictions?
Well, I don't see any Jim Rostad signs. Do you?
I have not. Not that I know of. I've seen
if we're going to pull based off signs.
I guess of the other four, I've seen
Shelley Wepler.
Yeah.
I've seen
Raider. I've seen Merritt, and I've seen Schuler.
I honestly haven't seen much of Schuler. I must just be looking in the wrong spots because I noticed that she's very active.
I feel like I've seen her signs.
No, I have. I've seen them. I just haven't seen them as often.
Fair. And, I mean, probably just,
So what's the process to get a sign up? Should you have to contact the property owner or not?
In most cases, I would say so.
Yeah,
I would say so vast majority. Maybe there's some exceptions, like if it's like in the middle of the highway or something,
If you're putting it in the middle of the highway, please don't. Please don't.
The ditch and the
I care about roads sign
course.
right in the middle of the county freeway,
blowing tires out.
Middle of a dirt road, county road.
But for vast majority, I feel like they should have to get the property owner's permission.
Yeah, it seems like they should. And the other thing that's interesting about the race is how it does cover the county.
Yeah, the entirety of it's not just a Minot race.
Yeah, we're only half of that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty
roughly,
big.
Yeah. But there's a lot of people in Ward County. It goes all the way up from Kenmare all the way down south to almost Max.
Oh, I found that out.
Driving around the county?
No, yeah, that's I drove till I ran into a sign. I'm like, oh, hit the edge of the county.
Turn back.
No, I did not.
Whole county won't let me leave.
Yeah, interesting. Going to be an interesting race. But you don't have any thoughts on who you think is going to pull it off?
I will say just based off signage, I feel like I've seen the most Jedediah Raider signs.
So you think he's going to be elected based off the signage?
If I'm going just based off signage, yes. I don't know otherwise. If I'm basing my opinion just based off the amount,
you're not interested in giving any
personal.
All right, so I'm kind of thinking. I'm not saying who I'm voting for. I'm saying who I think is going to win.
I don't know.
I think Shelley Wepler has a good chance. I think she's an incumbent that has a strong name. I think that can help you and hurt you. But I think that she has a good chance to win.
Fair enough.
I think Rostad. I honestly don't know if Rostad has a good chance. Now, here's the deal with Rostad, in my opinion, is he's got a group of people that will vote for him.
Sure. Because
he's been around several years, and
people,
and from what I heard, people said, "Hey, why aren't you running? You need to run."
Mm-hmm.
And so there are people that will vote for him, which is great. That's good. So I don't know. I haven't seen him much, and I think that's interesting.
That's fair
because it seems like people are riled up too
this year
in voting, and so. While he has his core, I don't know if he's going to get much of the people that are being very active that maybe haven't voted in past years, or at least have as informed of a vote on the Ward County Commission in past years.
That's fair. I think Shelley Wepler having her name on the ballot from the start could help too.
Yep.
I think her and Raider both. I think that could help them.
Yeah. Ron Merritt he's been fairly active.
He has a fairly well-known name.
And I should say,
too.
Jim Rostad has been active because I made it sound like he hasn't been active at all.
Yeah,
he has been active. He was at the Chamber EDC forum. He was at a few other forums that were put on around town.
Exactly.
He has been active. It's just, I don't think it's been to the same degree as some of the other candidates. That's all I was saying there.
Without a doubt. No, that's fair take.
Ron Merritt has been fairly active, and then he's also got a strong name recognition. If people liked him at the park board, then or park district, then there's a strong chance that he would be voted in. He would be a tough person to go against.
Yep.
Jedediah Raider has the biggest uphill battle, in my opinion.
With name recognition.
No name recognition.
Yeah. Complete unknown coming into this.
Yep. And
I think his biggest help is just the fact he was on that first ballot.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
And him being out there since February, doing some form of at least remotely active campaigning.
That will help.
He's been able to have his signs up and out there for at least longer time.
He's the most inexperienced, which isn't like some can view that as a bad thing, and others will be like, "That's what I want."
Exactly.
So that's not necessarily like a huge slap in the face to him.
And Miranda Schuler, great name recognition in the town.
Yeah,
has a fair bit of experience with in-town positions. I think she's going to have a fair chance of doing it as well.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how 3 seats fill out. But
5 people, 3 seats next Tuesday. If it's
Yep. Shelley Wepler.
No, 3 seats, 5 people.
Yeah, 3 seats, 5 people. Shelley
Wepler. Ron Merritt. Oh, are you doing your prediction?
I think Ron Merritt.
Okay.
And I think I'm going with an upset in the last one because the upset would be Rosted wouldn't be on.
Sure.
I'm going probably Schuler.
Schuler. There you go. I like those three. I think.
Yeah, but you won't give a 3. I put myself out there. You won't do it.
Fine. I will. Just because you're pressuring me now. Okay. I'm supposed to come to your peer pressure. I think Shelley Wepler will. I think Ron Merritt will. And I think, gosh, I'm going to go with you, aren't I? I think Miranda Schuler will too. I think she's going to have.
Interesting.
I think Wepler with Rader could though, just because he's been on there so long. Unfortunately, I feel like I could be discounting Jim Rosted just because of.
I know Jim Rosted could be. He could blow everybody away,
and he could have first. Yeah, he could come in first.
That's the thing. But I feel like there's no data that I have to back this up.
That's the thing. This is pure gut feeling on our end.
I feel like there's this, like in the big polls, they would go and talk about your swing voters and your independents and all this stuff, and they would be making the election. I feel like there's this a little group in Minot that is just not happy, and I think that those people will
decide who
vote. They might even vote against both incumbents just because they don't want an incumbent.
Yeah,
and I think that hurts Rosted more than it hurts Wepler.
And if they subscribe to term limits, especially as the states adopted them, both of those candidates would have exceeded that limit. Crazy. Which that's a whole different ballgame, of course, but it's a thing. Yeah,
that's an interesting discussion. I had that a little bit with Jedediah Rader. Mm-hmm. It's an interesting discussion on county commission because they are there for a long time, and it's not just the incumbents. A lot of them are there for a long time.
Exactly, and it's just one of the. And you look at this spring. How often do people run for it? And how often
they don't get
a large amount of people run for it.
They don't get riled up about it, and a lot of it is, and this isn't necessarily a great thing. A lot of it is Minot people are close to Minot. I don't know where Bucky lives. Bucky Anderson.
Couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
But Feldall, he's out of town. Mm-hmm. But I think most of them are in town.
Fair.
So that's interesting, or at least are in Minot often.
Yeah, us giving them these 10 minutes is like, how much better does it get than that?
Yeah.
How often? But realistically, how often do you see the Ward County Commission talked about? It's not a very publicized position, but it's incredibly necessary. It should be talked about more.
We'll change it.
And we're working on it. We're trying to get the word out there on it.
In the day,
but that's the thing, and especially how the last day and a half's been.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Yeah. All right, go for it, buddy.
You want to get into that, or do you want to do some national stuff first?
Okay, wait. Let's go national first. That's fine. This dude, he is all in on this Dunseith deal.
It was a trip. I don't know what's going on, but first, real quick, we'll just take a peek at some national polls.
All right, go for it.
We'll see how it's going. Looking at the national polls per 538 right now, it hasn't changed a ton from earlier in the week. Still has Harris up by about a point. Looking at Real Clear Politics, we try to find the national poll here. Has Trump up by about just under a point. So you look at both sides; they're still kind of hanging even with where it was tight, earlier this week. It's going to be a toss-up, pretty much whatever state you look at, between the competitive swing states, that is. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. A week from now, we're going to have, if we don't know, if we don't know by a week from now, it'll be a different story.
Yeah, we should know.
We should know by a week from now. Only other one, there was one slightly more recent state poll from earlier this month. It was a Senate poll for Kramer versus Christensen. It had Kramer polling at 45% and Christensen at 19%. And so that leaves a ton of undecided voters on that still.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So what's crazy to me is how it's October 31st and people are still undecided.
This poll is from the middle of this month, or beginning to middle of the month. But regardless, still a month out, and there's 40% of undecided voters.
Yeah, that's crazy. Crazy, man, crazy.
Any predictions you want to offer on the state races yet?
I mean, I think Kramer's going to win.
Fair enough.
I don't think that's much of a
no. It's not a shot.
Branch. I think
How about do you have any hot takes to share on the state races that would go against how they should, or are they expected to go?
Did I tell you one that I forgot about?
I don't think so.
So I think one thing that I enjoy doing though is following Katrina Christensen's Twitter feed or X feed.
She's very active.
Yeah, she is. I enjoy that for the most part. I mean, there was one the other day. I don't remember what it was, but yeah. Oh, North Dakota is going to make history this year. We're going to elect a Democratic senator, expand our state Senate majority, or expand our Senate majority. We did it in 2012. We can do it again this year. I like the positivity.
Some solid optimism.
Yeah, I like.
If she doesn't win this year, do you think we see her again in 2 or 4 years?
We've had this conversation.
We have.
I think we're going yes.
Okay,
I don't think she's done.
I think that's fair.
And
whatever it might be.
I think I said last time, and I stick to it. If she runs again, I think her highest chance is next time. 4
years from now, as a senator again against Hoven.
And if she doesn't win that time, I think she should be done.
Fair enough. That's reasonable.
And we touched on the governor and I said it in the past, and I'll say it again. I don't know if it will be against Hoven.
I believe if I've looked right, Hoven's already filed.
That's what you said last time I said that.
Yes, so we've already had this discussion. I don't even remember.
4 years ago, 4 years from now, though, Hoven is in his 70s.
Yep.
And
I'm getting dated.
It would be a good thing for him to not run again.
It would be. Yeah, that's fair. I like that. I like that wordage and framing of that. I agree.
If he doesn't run again, does that mean Fedorchak does?
Or does Armstrong step down from the governorship to run for Senate?
No way. No way.
I doubt it as well. I think
that's too soon. The only way that happens is if
eligible to run for a second term at some point in the future. Then,
no. I think the way that it happens, what you're talking about, is he replaces Kramer.
That's fair. 6 years from now,
that would be more likely.
That's fair. No, that's completely fair. I just had to throw it. I mean, it's a possibility. I had to throw it out there. It'd be when he's coming up for re-election.
Or Hoven does run for another term, and then he replaces Hoven in a long time from now.
Yeah, 10 years from now.
Right.
Gosh, we're looking way into the future now.
Which would be give him his full governorship.
Yep.
But I honestly, I sincerely buy into the concept that Armstrong just loves North Dakota.
I think he wants to be governor for sure.
I think he wants to be home.
He does. I think the way he speaks, he sounds like this is where he wants to be. He doesn't want to be in Washington.
So I believe that. So be interesting. Yeah.
Got to get through next Tuesday before we can start talking about the future, though.
Dude, I can't wait for politics to be over. I don't understand why we would want to rush into the next cycle so fast.
We're getting too ahead of ourselves here.
Gonna be interesting though to see how it plays out. Yeah, I think pretty much at the state level. I think it's interesting what's going on over in District 10. I think with you have Republicans campaigning for Democrats openly.
I did hear about that. That is an incredible thing. They've been working together for the last 4 years or whatever. Now they're friends and they want to
ridiculous.
He's bumping up her campaign to. It's wild.
I think it's. I mean,
is he doing it for himself because he's scared he might lose and that's his best way to win?
You're talking about Swintoll or whatever.
Swintoll,
yeah. No,
because he's the one Republican and the other two are Democrats.
Yeah, I think the problem is that there's people that don't love Jared Hendricks, which is the Republican candidate, and he's been a grassroots dude. He's been behind some
he's been around
initiated measures that happened. He was a key player in the Republican politics a few years ago.
Yeah, with the whole Rick Becker challenging Hoven, he was part of that.
Potentially, he would have been on the periphery of that, but before that, he was part of a grassroots movement that got a lot of districts changing out their chairs.
Sure.
Before that convention.
Sure.
So he's been heavily involved in politics, in Republican politics, and I think he's made some enemies, and I think that's where
this could be hurting him.
He's very strong, and I think that's a more moderate district, and so that's where Swintek, I'm not saying his name right, is going with the Keene more than Hendricks. But then you have that, but then you also have Republican activists that are putting money into the Democrat campaign or supporting sending out mailers against Hendricks, stuff like that, which is just crazy.
Which is bought and paid for by Republican candidate, at least indirectly.
Yeah, right. Indirectly, it's not by the candidate. It's by the PAC.
By the PAC that's also paying for them.
Yeah,
or donating to them. I'd have to look up the PAC's name, but yeah, it's been it's just shocking.
Yeah.
I guess it's in the area it's in, which is near Fargo, is a little bit more understandable just for the moderation of the area. But the fact that the Republican candidate does that is just, that's the part that surprises me.
Yeah, Mitchell, you said we can now have more viewers than CNN. Thanks. We're going after Fox next.
That's the goal. We're working on it.
So we're just
tell your friends.
We're just climbing up the ladder here.
You want to talk about
Let's
views?
talk about the Dunseith Coverup.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Oh gosh.
So this is interesting. Let's get some preface to
start.
it. So I get a text Tuesday morning, early in the morning. Hey, stuff going on. Would love for you to cover it. Here's a link to a podcast. And so listen to the podcast.
Didn't end up.
And followed up on it the afternoon. But then what happened was somebody else sent me an article that was with the Gateway Pundit. Now, I don't know much about the Gateway Pundit, and so I tend to believe that perhaps maybe it's a little bit, maybe not the most reliable news source.
Yeah, I
could be wrong.
I don't even know if I'll have time, but I have a take on that for later.
Okay. And so we're reading the Gateway Pundit article, and then we get to the transcript in the Gateway Pundit article, and we realize that the whistleblower mentioned has his first name in the article. I'm like, wait a minute.
This can't.
That's the same dude that is in the podcast that was sent over. Yeah, rule number 1. But I think the deal was it may not have been a whistleblower.
I think that's the thing. At this stage, he was no longer the anonymous whistleblower.
Yeah. So we're like, okay, interesting. And so then we were on a press conference yesterday that was held in Dunseith.
They had a Zoom link that we were able to.
Very, very interesting things. It was also some person also broadcasted on Facebook Live. Mm-hmm. Very interesting things happening over in Dunseith. So a man, Charles Hofer, went and was wanting to start a company, and his just building RVs. That's all he wanted to do. Yep. Just build RVs. And he has this modern take on it.
He wants them to be carbon fiber, be super resilient so they can last decades and decades.
Yeah, decades and decades. Mentioned that they would be able to withstand 4-inch hail indefinitely.
Yep, which is insane to think about. It's like a tank.
But then it was supposed to be also lighter, so you could pull it with smaller vehicles. And they were supposed to be bigger, which may or may not be a good thing. But overall, it's
fantastic
a good deal.
Theory, and they had actual conceptual designs that they had produced of it.
And not only that, there are other people doing the same, not same, but similar research and development
around the country.
Getting investments for it. It's a real idea that could take off. Mm-hmm. This man's dad started Dutchman and Four Winds, or at least was very involved in those companies.
So he's the son of a guy who was heavily involved in the RV industry.
Right. So
he's had
wants to get to work.
Exactly. He's ready to take his own step into it, foray, and he wants to build his business in Dunseith, North Dakota.
And the reason, but he didn't. It's not that he wanted to build his business in Dunseith, North Dakota.
Well, yeah. There's reasons for this. So.
He readjusts himself in his chair.
Yeah. So
takes a big sigh.
In 2015, a company called Benchmarks Electronics shut down in Dunseith, which had been there for years. The business or the building that it was operating out of had been there since the 80s. It was a big electronics manufacturing facility. It employed dozens of people in the area. And in 2015, it closed down and took its production and moved to Rochester, Minnesota region.
I want to say something before we jump into this even more.
Yeah.
I want to say like 2 things. One, most of the information that we're getting is from research that we've done through the internet, through few articles that have been written. They're hard to find.
A series of 4 articles from last fall by Michael Standard of the ND News Co-op. That's where a lot of it's coming from.
Yep. Then the press conference.
The press conference and the podcast.
Yep. And the podcast that was held on like the Grand Forks Best Source.
Like 2 weeks ago now or something.
So that's a lot of where we're getting this. This is still very early. We've reached out to Hofer's camp for an interview with him. We'll see if we're able to get something set up, because I think that we have some ideas for that podcast, how it could be really well laid out and really break down everything that's gone on, because he has a lot of information that should be easily viewed.
Yeah.
And so we have some pretty cool ideas for that.
Which would be great. So if you're watching, Charles, we'd love to have you on.
Yeah, and there's some other stories that we're going to be looking to based off this. So this is very early stages, and a lot of this is just information that we found based off what's going around on this.
Yeah. So
take that.
Do you want to? Should I go into depth, or should I do a brief overview of the whole thing first?
However you feel best.
Gosh, I don't know how. All right. So real fast, some big major takeaways from this thing that Charles Hofer wants to have seen. So also I have one other takeaway before. So Charles Hofer has 3. He wants protection because there are people he's scared of that he feels have been threatening him and extorting him for at least close to the last 2, if not 3 years. A lot of those people are in high positions in the state government. And he feels they are coming after him in a series of governmental cover-ups through the Department of Commerce and some federal departments. That's number 1. Number 2, he wants to make sure that there can be some kind of resolution at this point, because he was at one point suing Benchmark Electronics and was talking about suing the state. That's all of that is dropped, and so he is at the point where he wants to move forward. And then the third big point that I have that I noticed of all this is from a company called Chiptronics, and this is where I think so much more of the actual story that is provable can come from, in my personal opinion, from looking at this for like the last 36 hours. So what was going on is when so the building was sold in back to a little more depth now. The building was sold in 2015. And the city of Dunseith purchased it from the former company, that Benchmark Electronics. So the city of Dunseith is now marketing this almost 100,000 square foot facility to try to find a buyer to come in and repurpose this large manufacturing facility. So
that's hard. It's Dunseith, North Dakota.
Exactly.
It's close to the border.
It's 700-800 people, if that now, and not a lot there. So in the meantime, they're leasing out part of the facility to this company called Chiptronics. And they were originally a distribution company for Benchmark Electronics. So Benchmark Electronics would manufacture different kinds of chips, microchips, aeronautic, avionics, different kinds of parts for planes, all kinds of things like that. And when they were done manufacturing, refurbishing, whatever it might be, this Chiptronics would distribute them, send them out to wherever they need to go.
To China.
Yes, so as of
which is not necessarily a bad thing.
No, and so one of Hofer's big things is their invoices from Chiptronics sending things to China in 2019.
Okay, and that you just jumped ahead in the story.
I know I did,
but
so much.
That's not a big deal, except for the fact that Chiptronics was supposed to be out of there by then.
Yeah.
Right.
And they were
so Chiptronics was supposed to be out in 2015,
or at the very least by 2017.
Okay, by the 2017 they were supposed to be out of there.
Yep. From what I can tell, they weren't supposed to. At the very least, they weren't supposed to be having any kind of distribution at that point. And they were only doing like local manufacturing, metalworking, things like that at that point.
And at what point was the building supposed to be scrubbed?
2015.
So it's supposed to be scrubbed of the avionics and stuff like that by 2015.
Which is, yes.
And when I say scrubbed, it's supposed to be scrubbed by the government.
By the feds of some sort, yep. Because there is civilian and military grade avionics going through this place that are both manufactured and refurbished there. All kinds of, whether it be...
So when we talk about this, like an example is it's a controller. One of the things that they were producing was a controller that's in airplanes.
Yeah.
That is in almost every single airplane that flies in the U.S.
Yeah, especially those by Boeing. It's a massively produced thing.
Yep.
And it's like an 80% plus of commercial airlines in the U.S., let alone who knows about any kind of military application.
Right. So it's like kind of a major thing that's being produced here. It does have effect on a lot of things.
And of course, this isn't the only place it's made or was made.
Yeah. But at 2015, it's supposed to scrub. That stuff potentially was not supposed to be produced there anymore.
No, it shouldn't have been produced there. It shouldn't have been on site. There should have been nothing there.
And yet we have an invoice in 2019
of some kind of sale to a place in China.
Which, whether or not, I mean, anytime you mention China, it feels nefarious. But at the minimum, probably shouldn't be still distributing stuff in a facility you're not supposed to be distributing stuff from.
At the minimum. And there's a lot more depth on this than that. And I don't think we're going to have time for it today, but we're going to touch the surface of it. And this is going to be a story that...
And then, Charles, come on.
Please.
Let's talk about it.
I'm ready to follow this story because, and I would also, if by chance up in Dunseith you're watching, Bill Tuttle, reach out to us.
Yes.
We would love to communicate. We would love to hear your side of this. So back to the situation. We'll just skip ahead a little bit. So Chiptronics is loosely working out and leasing the facility from 2015 to 2022. And they're doing local manufacturing, metalwork. They have plasma cutters, things like that. And there's only a handful of people that are employed there. On their current website, they have a list of 4 employees, which I don't think the website's been updated since like 2017. Also, one final thing of context, on that website, it has a marketing promotion. It lists itself, from when it was a distributor for Benchmark, and it lists, if you want to reach out, I have all of this information. We can definitely send it to you. We can post it somewhere at some point. We'll try to write an article on this, but this is so much as of right now, I don't know where to start. But it listed in that marketing packet that it had distribution centers in Hungary, Romania, China, as well as domestic places in the U.S. and like Minnesota and Florida. Mm-hmm. So just a little context there. But now let's skip ahead to spring of 2022. The city of Dunseith and the state of North Dakota has been fishing this location out for years at this point, trying to find a prospective buyer. And finally, they get someone to bite. It's Mr. Charles Hofer of Hofer RVs.
Yay.
Yes, congratulations. And also, so now Hofer's going to come in. He's going to remodel this facility. And not just that. He's going to set up a career technical enhancement program through the Dunseith High School to train high school students there to be RV technicians. And it would have
That's genius for him.
It would have been the only Class 2 RV technical school based in a high school in the country.
Wow.
So they're getting a full technical license coming out of high school. That would have been the only one in the country.
And he's happy because it's going to be hard to get employees.
Exactly. So he is able to get ready, trained employees that are from the area, have homes and lives and family already there, and he's going to have it available to hire at that time $2 above national averages, is what they said.
Gotcha.
Excuse me. So that was the plan, but of course it said would have and everything. So clearly that hasn't happened. Mm-hmm. You fast forward, purchase goes through that spring to summertime around, it was June, August of 2022. That summer, that's when renovations were to begin on the property. And I'm giving you a overview. There's a lot more depth that I would love to get into.
We'll go through that later.
But
just
yes,
give them the overview.
Summer of 22, renovations begin. Hofer finds, at this point, this is where the big find happens. They're looking through some of the building. This is over 100,000 or nearly 100,000 square foot of facilities. So a ton of space, ton of little rooms, cubicles all over the place. And they find a ton of military and civilian grade avionics.
Whoops, my bad. I missed that on the scrub.
Things that were supposed to have been removed in 2015. And
that's alarming.
Hands go up all of a sudden because what is this? He said that this was a facility that hadn't been used. He was told that this facility hadn't been used in years. He was told that this facility had been scrubbed and had been cleaned. And so both of those things, A, it was still remotely in use by the manufacturing side of Chiptronics. B, it was not scrubbed clearly so now he has to try to contact someone to fix this problem for him. Mm-hmm. So now all of a sudden fall of 2022 is rolling around. He's contacting the Department of Commerce to say, hey, who is the one that supplied him with a $2.25 million line of credit, by the way, for setting up that CTE program. So now he contacts the Department of Commerce, says, hey, I can't continue on with the renovations. I have to have the feds come in and scrub the property and get rid of it. This should be easy, right? Theoretically.
Well, it should have been 2 weeks and done. That's what I heard.
That's my biggest question is how wasn't it? What are we missing still? And there's so much more to get into, but just on the surface, what are we missing that this wasn't just a simple process where they come in fall of 2022, clean it out, and it's over with?
Yeah.
That's what it should have been. But however, for whatever reason, he gets the runaround from a couple different federal agencies. They're not sure who to send in. Finally, he gets some people from the FAA, the Army CID, which is the Criminal Investigations Division, as well as, there was like 4 or 5 different departments that ended up coming in. And they all come in, and apparently they're all alarmed when they see what they see, all of this stuff that's still there.
Now,
and also there's another caveat to that real fast.
Okay.
So while this is happening between the fall of 2022 and spring of 2023, there's still packages that are being sent.
I was just going to say that.
To now Hofer RV.
They're not being sent to Hofer RV. They're being sent to that building.
Yeah. To the location that Hofer.
And they drop them off. And so one time they drop it off and they go and they run after the courier and we're like, hey, what is this? Why are you still dropping this off at our place? And the carrier's like, well, this is where I've always been told to drop them off. This is what I'm supposed to do. And so they're like, well, okay. And they weren't able to find that much information out from it, I don't think. But it was interesting to see how that kind of worked.
Exactly. And most of the senders were from Benchmark Electronics.
Womp, womp.
Who is the former occupant of the building. But it's not, they weren't being sent to Benchmark.
But this isn't, just moved. Yeah. So, I'm still going to get mail to my old house.
100%.
But this is 7 years later.
Yeah. And why is Benchmark sending mail to their old location?
Right.
And it's addressed to Chiptronics and a gentleman named Bill Tuttle, but that's not important right now.
But that is important, don't forget.
It is overall important, but to our right this minute, not necessarily so. And so they're still getting this mail, they're getting all this mail. They're confused. No one's cleaned the stuff up until now comes spring of 2023. Finally, he gets people in from the FAA, Army CID, and a couple other places that come and are able to go through it. But it doesn't happen once. It takes 3 separate times for them to come in between spring and summer of 2023 to get everything cleaned out.
No, I thought at one point somebody told him, give us the keys. In 2 weeks, we'll have this scrubbed. We'll give you the keys back.
Allegedly, that's what he said. I think that's what he said when he contacted the Minot FBI, I think. And there's so much more depth that has happened in the last year and a half that wasn't covered in a lot of the stories from last year that we would have to get from Hofer at this point.
Yep.
And
at his press conference, that's where I'm pulling that from.
No, 100%.
At his press conference, he said, and I believe on the podcast that he did with Grand Forks Best Source, he said that somebody reached out.
One of the agencies he'd contacted.
Yep. And it was, interestingly enough, the agent's last name was Breo, right? From Surrey. You will recognize that name. The guy's on trial for something now.
Because it was originally murder and attempted murder, but in July, it all of a sudden got reduced.
Do you know what it got reduced to?
I looked it up, but I have to pull it up.
Okay.
Go ahead and keep talking. I'll look it up.
And so he gets reached out to by Breo. 2 weeks, we'll have it scrubbed. We'll give the keys back. And then from my understanding, and you can correct me where I'm wrong on this, Kyler, he was like, Brady was like, actually, how about you just get rid of this stuff and we'll keep it on the down low, essentially.
Yep. So, what I believe you're effectively, that's exactly what happened, because he went out there and he was all concerned. He was upset, said that he was going to lock it down or whatever. And then he went back and then he sent him an email like a day or two later. And he said, and Brahio told Hofer that his boss told him that it was fine if Hofer just gets rid of it, throws everything away. And Hofer's like, what?
Yeah.
You told me I needed to
give you the keys,
leave the facility. And now you're telling me to go throw this stuff away?
And so basically what I've heard from Hofer is that he feels a little bit like there came a point, maybe you're going to get to this, but this is, again, what he feels like.
Yeah, this is from Hofer's perspective.
He feels like this whole thing was done because there was some activity that was going on that was not legal. And he felt like they needed someone to come and buy the building so they could pin everything to that new person.
Yep.
And assumedly the guy would run out of town because he didn't want to deal with this and he's just going to go figure something else out in life. But Hofer wasn't that guy, and he has stood up to it. And so then they have had to attack him more personally than that. That's basically what Hofer feels. If that's true or not, who knows?
But then there's so much more depth that we're working on trying to figure out on this, because like we were saying, the Michael Standard articles are from last October. There's a year.
Yeah, right. And it's been hard to get information. And part of that frustration comes from even Hofer, who has tried to go and give this. Well,
apparently
in Hofer's story, he tried to give it to a major news outlet.
Yeah.
And then the Commerce doesn't look good at all in this whole situation.
No.
As you dig into it, Commerce told him, don't do that. If you do that, we won't give you any more money.
Mm-hmm.
They began to try to control the whole thing by
this happened last November.
Gotcha.
That's when that all started, because that was about the last article that Standard was able to write before he had to move off the subject.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot of time, clearly.
Right.
And it's still a developing story. So last November, Commerce comes in after Hofer clears his litigation against Benchmark, so he can come out and there's no cease and desist, no non-disclosure agreements. That's what I was looking for. So he can talk about it now. So when he tries to go to he wants to go public with all this, that's when apparently the Department of Commerce comes out last November and says, hey, if you do, we're going to cut off your money for sure. Because there had been issues back and forth with the whole loan getting paused and everything. But at that point is when it came out that if he did go forward, it would get cut off. And so now he's been apparently trying to go to more major media news sources lately. And apparently they haven't wanted to pick it up for whatever reason.
But I think it's important that the full story is told on how it went last time, because what he said was he was to the point where they were basically, he had given them information, he had taken their time, he had showed them everything. They were almost, it sounded like maybe not everything was written up, but they were ready to move forward to release this thing. And then he said, you can't do it because the Department of Commerce. So then they're like, forget you. Mm-hmm. And so why would they want to listen to him the next time around? And I'm sure that some of those networks or those circles are tight. Mm-hmm. We see that on the national stage where with this election where there's supposedly stories that are being shopped and nobody wants them. And part of it is because the last person didn't take it. Mm-hmm. So nobody wants to take that risk.
If they didn't take it, why would we take it?
Right. They've already done research on you and they said it was no good. So it's not worth our time either. Mm-hmm. Which was interesting because in that pulls into the Gateway Pundit article where he was trying to get this out through a local major North Dakota news player.
Yeah.
And he was also in some ways getting at least slow played by them, which has to be aggravating for him. Like they were trying to help him resolve his problem rather than just get the story out there.
Exactly.
And so it's been interesting the circles he's jumped through. And part of it is we would love to talk with him directly because to ask questions on that, to find out a little bit why is it going this way, and at least get his view on it.
Why did it take till October for this to come out? Why couldn't it have happened in summer? Has other things developed? Like this is the point now where there's so much. So
work on summarizing this to a close is this edition of Minot Talk is wearing thin.
Yeah. How about I'll kind of go with 3 takeaways that I have from it that I kind of sent to you last night. One,
yikes.
I'm not going. It's off of that. So one, the most provable thing I think, and had been confirmed by at least the Army CID, that there was an active investigation happening into it at least a year and a half ago, and that was whatever happened between 2015 and 2022. In the facility that Hofer used, and why there was some kinds of high grade avionics equipment there.
Yeah.
That I think is going to be the most easily findable solution to a story. Second is when you start getting into what Hofer's talking about more recently now. And Hofer isn't as worried about what happened between 2015 and 2022. Right. He's more worried about what's happened to him in the last 2 years.
Which is just so strange. That is just not cleaned up. Why there's so much pressure applied to him. I mean, he's saying he's been stalked.
Yeah.
He's saying that
harassed by different federal agents.
He's saying that his electronics have been gone wild.
Yeah.
Where his company email just gets cut off.
He wasn't able to use his phone for a couple days at one point in time. And apparently, according to him, he didn't show any proof of this at the press conference, but according to him, he talked to a high-up official in the State Department that was allegedly an appointed official.
From D.C., right?
From D.C., who was someone that had to be appointed to their position, so that means they are at least remotely up there, that they told him that after Hofer explained the story to them, that he was involved in some kind of cover-up, and he needs to get his hands out of it as fast as possible.
Yeah. It's crazy.
No idea.
And then the guy wouldn't talk to him anymore.
Yeah, and then he couldn't get a hold of him or contact him anymore. So I don't know. There's just so much unknown with that part of it.
That's crazy.
And then so whatever kind of alleged cover-up is happening between Commerce, federal agencies, state government, however that may play out, no idea. There's so much unanswered questions with that part of it, and that's where I'll leave that, I think.
Yeah. So very interesting story happening in Dunseith. We're going to continue to work at it, get more information, hopefully have some interviews on it. If you have any information that would be helpful to it, let us know. We'll follow leads.
Please reach out. If you want some of the information we have, I'll try to get some kind of...
We'll probably begin to create a thread on mydakotan.com where things can be followed, and we have resources as we see them applicable posted there. So look for that in the coming weeks. But yeah, very interesting story. North Dakota is becoming famous. We've had a governor run for president, and now we have big time Coverup potentially
happening, or at the very
potentially happening in North Dakota. And you're going to say that same governor, that governor's office had meetings about this. Kramer's office had meetings about this. Hovind's office had meetings about this.
Whether any of those...
Drew Wrigley is involved in this to some degree. Obviously, the Department of Commerce is involved in this. The state's very involved.
Yeah. The Economic Development Foundation of North Dakota is very much involved in it. And it's, to what extent, no idea. But they all have a level of at least surface level involvement in it. And whether it's cover-up, complacency, incompetency, or just cluelessness, we don't know yet.
We don't know yet, but we're working on it.
Without a doubt. Anything you want to add, Jonathan?
I think I've added enough throughout.
Yeah, I think I...
So, very interesting. Pretty exciting. So, dude, following up on last week, do we need to have a breakfast food eating contest every week?
Maybe we should. Do we have to make it a food eating contest? Is that so? It's like
eating contest. It needs to be a battle royale. We need to figure out the best of everything in town.
I think that's a fair point. Do you want to see us eat more? Would that be fun? If so, let us know. If we get like one person that says yes, we're probably going to do it again.
If we don't, we'll probably still do it.
Still, maybe not next week, but like 2 weeks it'll happen.
Coming to find out, I'm hungry on Thursday mornings.
Right? All of a sudden, I wake up early and I get hungry earlier. It's crazy how that works.
I wanna do some breakfast burritos, man.
Ooh,
there's got to be some good breakfast burritos in town.
Qdoba.
Okay.
Versus LS Teca.
Do you think they do breakfast? I don't think they do breakfast.
They could. Somewhere would. I know we'll find it. We'll figure it out. We'll get some good ones. We do Taco Bell versus Taco John's.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll be feeling that all day.
Ooh. It's a hard one. No, we'll figure it out. But
we're going to do it.
Stuff. So,
great time, Jonathan. Good conversation.
You're going to vote today?
Yeah, probably. Give me I think it opens at 10, so I'll probably get up there around 10:30, 11.
There you go. Sounds good.
Appreciate it.
I'll get that done too. Thank you for watching this episode of Minot Talk. Be sure to tune in on Tuesday at 2 p.m. when we will be talking about election day stuff. It's going to be a big day Tuesday.
And recapping city council for Monday.
Yes. Are we going live Monday?
Oh, we could. Yeah, that's right. We were talking about that.
Let us know if you want us to go live with a live react. Now, understand how that works. Yes, we talk while city council talks. It's part of the game. It's what has to happen. I'm sorry. It just has to be that way.
We will try to listen to them, but also if we're quiet the whole time, what's the point?
Yeah.
We have to try to add some form of context into it and at least some form of our opinion or idea of what's going on. So we try to minimize it, but at the same time, if we do it, we have to do it.
The only thing is last time we did that, our office flooded, so I don't know if the idea is forever jinxed or...
Yeah.
But
we'll see how it goes.
We'll see. But we'll be back next week. Thank you for watching this episode of Minot Talk, and be sure to have a wonderful day today.